Greetings everyone, Jeremy Sutton from PrecisionPrinciple.com on day 29 of the Intensive Ashtanga Yoga Training. Here in Makloganj, we are about to wrap up the course. We've done basically all the work at this point, and we are on just the light at the end of the tunnel is bathing upon us at this point. And I would like to talk about a little bit today how social skills, how the human factor plays into basically everything that we do. All right? Now, humans are social creatures. Of course, we know that. None of us live in isolation. We all have people, especially if we're watching these videos, clearly we have people around us. And yoga is often a very isolated activity in the sense that when you're doing your practice is on your mat, right? You have, of course though, you have peers around you. You might have an instructor ahead of you. So, you know, there's knowledge coming through a lineage. Basically, the instructor has his knowledge. You have other people learning at the same level as you. Some people advanced, some people behind you. So obviously, even though your practice is, basically you on the mat, and it comes down to whether you're doing it or not, obviously there are some serious social factors in the environment that play a big role. And there's a number of ways that we can look at this. First off, as an instructor, definitely is important to think about how does our demeanor, how does the way that we present ourselves, the way we present our practice, the way that we interact with students, how does that affect their practice, right? How does bringing awareness to the way that our individual demeanors, the way that we behave and the way that we act, how does that influence the quality of other people's experience in this endeavor? And the answer is obviously it influences a lot. Now, there are all the time, if you're thinking about what to do, why to do it, really important question is think, why am I doing this in the first place? And what is the sort of intended outcome that I'm doing from this? And as a yoga instructor, I need to be thinking, what do I want most in this interaction for my students? Because behaving one way might, for example, I could be a total hard ass, push my students to kind of go, and that's going to be good, for example, if the students are of the mindset that, hey, yeah, I want to be pushed, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to really take it to the limit, and that's the kind of instruction that I'm looking for. So if there's a match between my sort of disposition about how I instruct and how my students want to be received, and that's both like, hey, I want to be pushed hard, then maybe that's the ideal outcome. There's no one way to be in all situations, because on another hand, maybe my students, they don't want to be pushed so hard, and I'm like, come on, go, I'm going to push you, and I'm going to just really help you get into I'm going to help you get into the positions more correctly and push you to go a little farther. And in some of the adjustments, you can actually push people in yoga to kind of help them get more of a stretch depending on the situation. But if my students are sitting there thinking, hey, I don't want to be touched right now. I'm here to get in the flow of my routine, so you're actually detracting from my practice. Wait a minute. So now we have a couple things. What's my goals? I might say, my goal is to help you develop as quickly as possible. At the same time, my larger goal is that while I'm helping you today do your practice, I'm also hoping that this studio stays open and that people enjoy coming back and want to maybe even tell their friends because they enjoyed the practice so much and they've learned so much and that they've made gains, right? So I need to be sure that the way that I'm interacting right now with my students, one is how they want to be interacted with, and two is really moving people towards the outcomes. I mean, if I want to scare all my students away and make sure they don't come back, then maybe I need to be real hard ass and move on them the whole time, and maybe then they won't come back, and then I have my successful goal. But obviously that's not what most of us are going for when we start, if we start an endeavor such as opening a yoga studio. And so, yeah, there are a few things to be aware of in this scenario, and that's one, matching your own qualities to the intended outcome of the situation. Because, yeah, some people are going to have problems if you try to push them when they don't want to be pushed. And some people are going to find it boring if you just kind of passively just tap them on the shoulders and try to help them out a little bit when they really want to be pushed and cranked into the situation. My cousin one time, he's a big tough football player, and we were watching this video on this guy studying yoga around the world, and he's to this one place, and the yoga instructor is just sitting right there on the mat with the guy and just kind of really cranking the guy around, moving around, really getting him to twist pose, helping him get, no, not right here, kind of move into the situation. And my cousin says, yeah, that's the kind of yoga that I want to be a part of. That's the kind of yoga that I want a teacher who's right there to kind of smack me in the back if I'm doing it wrong and to move me, bam, right into the right position. And other people who we were watching the video with at the time were thinking the opposite, thinking, man, that is the last way that I want to practice yoga, right? So obviously this instructor he was probably a high-level master instructor. The thing is that if your students are not up for that style of yoga, then obviously you're not going to help them get to their results. Now, maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe as a teacher, you have to think: is it most important to me to simply acquiesce to all the desires of my students, or is it important to me to stick to my values? I learned this way, so this is the way that I want to teach, and I enjoy this tradition. So, there's a number of factors. Like, is it more important to you to just stay true to the way that you practice, or is it more important to you to help each student benefit in the way that's most attuned to their benefit at the time? And some people say, for example, in Mysore, there's very high quality teachers there, but it's a little bit elitist, as in that if you can't do the next pose in the series, then that's where you stop for today. And some people get to move on, but only when the instructor says they can. And if you can't do it, then you're just done for the day, and that's just how it goes. And you come back and you repeat the practice up until that point, until the teacher gives you permission to move on. Is that the best way to teach? It depends what your goals are. If, for example, someone might say, "But hey, I'm a beginner. What am I supposed to do?" And maybe in Mysore, it depends. I don't know how all the systems are, but maybe the teacher there says, "You know what? This yoga is not for beginners. This yoga is for advanced practitioners. And so if you are not at the level that you can take this sort of, if you can only get through 5 poses, then maybe this location is not the place to do it for you." So in that case, that instructor has certain values, and he says, it's the most important to me to work with the highest quality candidates in the world. And if you can't really take the heat, then you got the kitchen, and so be it. If I'm going to lose a bunch of students because they can't really handle the intensity of my instruction, or they can't take the intensity of the situation, then that's fine with me. And of course, in Mysore, where Ashtanga Yoga originated with Pattabhi Jois, now I believe his son is now leading the studio there, and that's just their style. They're looking for the best people that want to come there. They only want to certify the best, and you don't get to ask to be certified. They just kind of bestow their blessing upon you, and they think you're ready, and you're not allowed to ask to be able to be certified. And in that yoga studio and their shala, they have basically they have yoga mats lined up all morning long with about 1.5 inches space between each mat. So I don't think they're especially worried about if they're scaring away the beginners, because that's not their focus. Their focus is on elite level yoga for people who are totally dedicated to this as a life practice. And if you're not there and they aren't really worried about how that affects your well-being, they want you to either step up to the plate or feel free to walk out the door. No skin off their back. So obviously there's just a bunch of there's many styles, right? There's many ways to navigate this life. There's many personality types. There's many ways to, people are trying to get what they want in different ways. And some people are not just trying to get what they want, but also being aware of what other people want. And so it's kind of a value judgment. What do you care about? Do you care most about yourself? Do you care most about the way that you want to do things? Are you or not even just care about yourself, but are you dedicated to a certain way that things are? I mean, this is of course could be a little bit dangerous if you're dedicated to a certain sort of ideology that you just believe is the one right way, and you're not open to change. That's we start to traverse the line of possible danger, because at this point we're talking about not being flexible enough that you can't kind of open to someone else. But that's not to say that there's no value in that. There might be value in that for people who kind of take that path, and it does okay with me as long as they're also at least tolerant of other ways of thinking, of ways of being. It's always obviously a big problem when people say, there's a lot of problems in the world, but everything's going to be okay when everybody else thinks the way that I do. That's the solution to all the world's problems. As soon as everyone just thinks the same way that I do, they have my beliefs, then I know that everything's going to be okay. This is a huge mistake. And you know what? It's not, maybe many people are watching this thinking, oh yeah, that's what religions do, right? So yeah, well, it's also what a lot of science-oriented people do too. It's going to be the whole world's going to be better when everyone starts to do critical thinking and be oriented with the rational worldview, just the way that I am. And other people say, oh, everything's going to be better when the whole world is religious or spiritual or philosophical the way that I am. As soon as people understand my point of view and they see it for how it really is, then I know we're all going to get through our problems. This is a big mistake. We have to be open to multiple perspectives, and this means that we might need to be flexible sometimes. In my opinion, flexibility is a positive characteristic of a healthy consciousness. If we are confident and healthy in our own mindset, then it shouldn't bother us that other people think different ways. The only people who are really getting upset about this is when you come across people who are so insecure about the way that they believe things are, that they're so sensitive about the way that their own beliefs are, that when somebody else has a different perspective, it kind of knocks them off their pedestal a little bit. It kind of knocks them off balance because they think, oh, wait a minute, if you think something different than I do, then that means that my way of thinking is maybe not correct, and it really bothers me that maybe I don't have the absolute correct way like I thought I used to have. And so, it's really a sign of insecurity when people get so nervous or get so uncomfortable with other people with various perspectives. So we're just going to wrap it up about there today. But the point is that social skills are important. Having a general awareness of what other people's intended outcomes are, having a general awareness at all points what your own purpose is, why you're doing the things that you're doing, and because this way, does the way that I do things and the way that you do things, are they going to mesh up together? And I mean, this is especially important in a teacher-student relationship or even a peer-to-peer relationship. If me and you are studying together and we, it seems to me that we want, one kind of studying techniques and you're trying to go for another type of studying techniques and we're just like not coming together, obviously this is a problem. And this is what we talk about when we have a connection, right? When we jive with somebody, it's when people usually when people have like similar orientations that, my empathy or my awareness or just my general operating lines up with the way that your general operating goes. And then we kind of feel that connection. We kind of feel like, hey, yeah, this is smooth because we're both on the same level, so to speak. And we don't have to naturally be on the same level, though. It's possible through awareness to kind of open up yourself up, be aware of how other people are kind of interacting, and if you feel so inclined, it's okay to kind of swallow some of the pride and conform a little bit to the way that other people want to be treated. There's like the golden rule, treat others how you would like to be treated. But I heard recently the platinum rule. It won't take it one better, which is treat others how they would like to be treated, right? Because maybe I'm very comfortable. I like it. My friends come up and they come put their arm around me, and I'm like, yeah, man, no problem. Like that's how I like to be treated. But I come up to somebody else, and that's how I like to be treated. So I just walk up to somebody else, and they don't want to be touched, and I put my arm around them. Right? That's a problem. I'm treating you how I want to be treated, but I'm not treating you how you want to be treated. So there's at least treat others how you want to be treated. But if you can go for one more, you can treat others how they would like to be treated, even if it means that you don't necessarily do everything the way that you want to do. It's okay to kind of let the ego go down a little bit, conform a little bit to the other person's desires. I mean, this is also, assuming that you have a strong sense of self, a strong personality. I'm not saying, don't conform all the time. It's not like a rule of thumb. This isn't a blanket statement. I'm just saying it's good to be flexible and be open to working with people the way they want to be worked with. And in a lot of situations, you might find that you get your own intended outcomes a lot smoother because people are willing to work with you. You give a little ground, other people are going to give a little ground too. Maybe not. Some people take advantage of you. If people are taking advantage of you, then obviously be aware of that as well and be strong enough to step out of the situation. You have to have the ability to set up boundaries so that people are trying to take advantage of you. You can just say, no, this is where the buck stops, and you can't treat me like that because I have self-respect. But that self-respect turns into pride and a big-headedness if we're not careful, right? Now, what's the difference between, no, I'm not going to do what you say because I have boundaries and you're kind of stepping over my line, or what's the difference between me being like, no, I'm not going to do what you want to do because I don't want to conform to your way. See, now takes, I guess, wisdom is knowledge in action, right? Is experience and knowledge being applied appropriately in the right situation. So this is where you have to have it through experience, through wisdom, to actually know what the difference is, and ultimately I'm sure you'll figure out which one works best for you. So thank you for joining me. Go ahead and click subscribe down below so you don't miss these updates. We're coming to the end of the Yoga Diaries series, but we are not coming to the end of the Precision Principle video series. So we're going to have all sorts of topics. Now that we're kind of finishing up this yoga practice, we're going to open it up to a number of different book topics. We're going to open it up to a number of psychology, science, performance, peak performance meditation, and a number of other things. So go ahead and click subscribe below. Don't miss the next updates. Check out precisionprinciple.com. Are you in the game? If you're not in the game, maybe it's time to start. It could actually transform your life. Don't believe me? Test it out for yourself. In the meantime, thank you for joining me. Keep learning. Keep growing. Have a great day.